shattered silence. The first sound Alex woke up to each morning was not birdsong or an alarm clock it was shouting. Some days it was muffled. Other days it echoed through the paper-thin walls like a warning siren. His parents had stopped trying to hide their arguments. The living room had become a war zone, and he, a reluctant witness to every emotional explosion. Alex was 16, tall for his age, with deep-set eyes that carried the weight of someone twice as old. He lived in a modest apartment in Manchester, where tension filled every corner of their home like stale air. His mother, a once warm woman, now spent her days in silence or in fights. His father, a man whose anger never needed an invitation, erupted over the smallest trigger: a missed call, a misplaced sock, a cold dinner. Sometimes it turned physical. Most times it was verbal, but just as scarring. School had once been a place of escape. Alex used to be a top student, loved literature, had a knack for science, and dreamed of studying medicine. But over the past year, his grades plummeted. Homework sat undone. He stopped raising his hand in class. He stopped trying altogether. He couldn't concentrate with the noise at home. Nights were sleepless. He'd lie in bed, listening to their fights, flinching at the sound of breaking dishes or slammed doors. His chest often felt tight. He didn't know what anxiety was. She just thought it was normal to feel like you're drowning all the time. One morning, Alex stood in front of the mirror, brushing his teeth when he noticed something strange. He hadn't realized how pale he'd become. His eyes had dark circles, and his cheeks looked sunken. He hadn't been eating properly. Most days, he skipped breakfast, sometimes dinner too, depending on how bad things were at home. At school, teachers started noticing. "You look tired, Alex," they'd say, or "Are you feeling okay?" He would nod, lie, and keep walking. What could he say? "My parents are tearing each other apart, and I'm stuck in the middle." No one would understand. And even if they did, what could they do? He had stopped hanging out with his friends. Invitations to play football or study together were turned down with vague excuses. He no longer laughed, no longer cared. He just drifted through days, numb and detached. The counselor at school, Mrs. Brown, called him in one afternoon. She had a soft voice and kind eyes, but Alex felt guarded. "I've noticed you've been struggling lately, Alex," she said gently. "Your teachers are worried. I'm worried." He shrugged. "I'm fine. Are things okay at home?" He hesitated. The silence grew heavy. He wanted to speak, to let it all out, but something inside him resisted. If he said something, would it make things worse at home? Would his parents find out and blame him? "I'm just tired," he muttered. Mrs. Brown gave him a look that said she didn't believe him, but she didn't press. She handed him a small card. "If you ever need someone to talk to outside of school, this is a youth helpline. You're not alone, Alex." He nodded, slipping the card into his pocket without looking at it. At home, things got worse. One evening, he returned from school to find the living room in disarray, cushions on the floor, a picture frame shattered, and his mother crying quietly at the dining table. His father was gone. Alex didn't say anything. He just picked up the broken glass and swept the floor. His mother looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry you have to see this," she whispered. He wanted to scream. "Then why do you let it happen?" but the words stayed stuck in his throat. That night, he felt something break inside. He climbed out onto the balcony of their flat, stood there in the cold wind, and stared down at the street below. The lights of passing cars blurred in his vision. For a terrifying moment, he wondered what it would feel like to jump. But something pulled him back. Maybe a voice in his head, maybe a memory of better days. He returned to his room and, for the first time, pulled the card from his pocket. He didn't call, not yet, but he stared at the number for a long time. The next day at school, Alex passed out during PE. His body, starved of nutrition and sleep, had given up. He woke up in the nurse's office, disoriented and scared. The school called his mother, who arrived teary-eyed and panicked. But when the nurse gently suggested family counseling, his mother grew defensive. "We don't need therapy," she said. "He just needs rest. We're a normal family." Alex wanted to scream. Normal? That night, his parents fought again. His mother accused his father of caring too little. His father shouted about ungrateful children and thankless wives. Alex sat in his room, hands over his ears, shaking. He reached for the phone and dialed the number. It rang. "Hello, this is the youth support line. How can we help you?" His voice cracked. I don't know. My parents fight all the time. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I feel like I'm disappearing." The person on the other end didn't interrupt. They just listened. That night, Alex cried for the first time in months. Not out of weakness, but release. He began talking to the helpline more regularly. Eventually, with their guidance, he agreed to meet a therapist through a local youth center. Slowly, he began to understand what he was going through: chronic stress, emotional neglect, and the early signs of depression. The therapist explained how family conflict impacts not just the mind, but also the body. How cortisol levels rise, sleep patterns break, and self-worth plummets. Alex began journaling. It felt strange at first, but eventually became a habit. He wrote about his feelings, his fears, and the dreams he had buried beneath the rubble of his home life. He even wrote about wanting to become a doctor again. His grades didn't improve overnight, but he started trying again. His teachers noticed the shift. His essays came back with fewer red marks. He began attending after-school study sessions. He wasn't fixed, but he was healing. At home, things remained rocky, but Alex had learned to create emotional boundaries. He'd put on headphones when the shouting began. He no longer blamed himself. Most importantly, he no longer stayed silent. One evening, he sat down with his mother. They hadn't had a real conversation in months. "I don't hate you," he said quietly, "but I hate what this is doing to me." She looked broken eyes rimmed with guilt. "I want to get better," she whispered. "For you." Eventually, his parents agreed to try family counseling. It wasn't perfect. Some sessions ended in tears, others in progress. But the effort mattered. By his final year of school, Alex had regained his strength. He still had bad days, but they no longer consumed him. He applied to universities, wrote a powerful personal statement about resilience and healing, and received an offer to study psychology. He wanted to understand the mind because he had seen firsthand what happens when it breaks.